On Landline today, we're at the 49th Henty Machinery Field Days in southern New South Wales. We meet the remarkable Roy Eykamp, who chooses to build as much of his gear as he can.
I don't care how many people laugh about it, I love machinery.
He's an inventor, entrepreneur, hunter, aviator, pioneer and farmer. And at 94 years of age, Roy Eykamp reckons he's still a work in progress. He's just written his life story about a journey that began in the American Midwest and took him to the Liverpool Plains in New South Wales, where his achievements helped develop the region into one of Australia's primary production powerhouses.
It's harvest time at the Eykamp Kikuyu seed enterprise near Corindi on the black soil plains of New South Wales. In a good year, they'll yield about 50 tonne of seed for a global market the family developed and has monopolised for about 40 years.
Well, the market traditionally used to be for pasture improvement on the coast in the high rainfall areas, and of course the similar climates around the world. But that's diminished somewhat, and now we're selling a lot into Europe for utility areas and golf courses and playing fields. But the world market is huge. Not only did we produce it and clean it and grade it and bag it and sell it, but we controlled the price. We were price makers instead of price takers.
The Kikuyu venture was pioneered by Roy Eykamp. He was still running the family business until a couple of years ago when he broke a leg in a fall. Now at 94, he only drives his tractor for a bit of exercise, but his forced retirement gave him the time and inclination to write his life story.
I probably never would have written it if I wouldn't have broken my femur bone, because I just wouldn't have had time. I would have thought that farming was more important. But when I couldn't farm anymore then and work all the time, my son talked me into writing my life story. Everything's fit together. This story of my life is the most, I don't know, somebody was doing it. Somebody was guarding me, I don't know. I got a guardian angel, and I guarantee you I got a guardian angel.
Roy Eykamp was the oldest of 3 sons on a family farm in South Dakota in the American Midwest. His father reared pigs and grew seed crops. As a boy, Roy Eykamp showed great mechanical aptitude, salvaging the wheels from an old Buick and building the district's first rubber-tired hay cart. So began a lifelong love of fixing things and recycling what others threw away.
But I've always been fascinated with secondhand stuff because I could see some value in most of it. And that's why I've made a business out of using nothing but secondhand material.
The family survived the Great Depression. They had food, but their crops were worthless. The experience left Roy Eykamp with a lifelong distrust of banks. His father had borrowed money just before the crash, and when his bank failed, it kept his savings and made him repay the loan as well.
We couldn't buy shoes, we couldn't buy clothes, we had no money. You don't know what it's like to have no money. Of course you learn to distrust the banks after they stole from you. That was a theft, outright theft, to take his money that was in the bank and then make him pay for the loan too. I call them banksters, all right. And I don't think they've changed, because now the banks are gamblers. They're in business and they gamble with money that they should be loaning out for making more industry and stuff. They're just playing. That's what brought all this trouble on we're having now. Banks doing the wrong thing.
After a stint building aircraft for the war effort, Roy Eykamp returned to farming. He found early success growing the most difficult seed crops on the market, such as bird's foot trefoil. His first crop earned $8,000 when $10 would buy an acre of land.
I made my own price. And that really shook me up a bit. I got what I wanted for I didn't say, what will you give me? He says, what do you want for it? And I grabbed that. And from there on I Grow Seed, I quote my price on this kikuyu seed that I've been so successful with. I make the price, or the boys do now.
So you were doing pretty well there in the States. Why on earth, in 1962, did you decide to leave and come to Australia?
Taxes. They tax the farmers pretty high, and I wasn't in a subsidized crop.
At the age of 45, Roy Eykamp moved his wife Lois and 5 children to Australia. By chance, he settled near Quirindi in New South Wales, buying a small farm on the Liverpool Plains, a region then famous as one of the nation's richest wheat-growing areas. It was beginning to boom, but Roy Eykamp saw the potential for intensive agriculture. He was determined to tap into the aquifer beneath his farm to develop an irrigation industry. Today, groundwater is the lifeblood of the region, but it was Roy Eykamp's perseverance and mechanical know-how which got it all going. He developed the technology which allowed pipes to draw groundwater without becoming blocked.
Well, we were here for quite a few years before Roy came, and then when Roy came, he just had to have irrigation. And there was no irrigation bores around here at all, but he had to have one. So we went down deeper through the gravel beds and we got really good water. And that's where all the irrigation started around here then. Everyone copied, it just escalated, and the next bloke got one, the next fellow got one, but Roy was the one that started it all.
I thought it was actually a gift from heaven. Water, good water, underneath nice level land. All you had to do was run a land plane over most of it, and you could irrigate it. It was just like pennies from heaven. I couldn't believe it. It was available, nobody was doing it. But I figured out how to get the water out.
Roy Eykamp is also credited with discovering that the black soil plains were deficient in zinc.
I couldn't buy zinc then. Nobody had it to sell. But I went down to the paint store down in Sydney and bought zinc oxide or whatever it is that they use for paint, that white stuff. And I coated my seed corn with it. I was growing corn then. I coated my seed corn with the zinc. I knew it didn't take much zinc, but you had to have some. It was just enough, and I got a prize-winning crop. In fact, the next 3 crops I grew, I got trophies for. Because the zinc is what did it. The zinc made this valley.
But it's the kikuyu enterprise that made him his fortune and confirmed his talents as a grower, inventor and entrepreneur. While kikuyu grass grows on just about anything, including bare rock, the seed is small and extremely difficult to harvest.
Kikuyu is very, very difficult to thrash because if you thrash it too hard, you get all the seed then, and then you crack so much of it. And if you thrash it so that you don't crack it, you don't get all the seed. So it's got to be thrashed more than once. That's what the would-be growers couldn't figure out, was how to thrash to get the crop.
The solution came by adapting the reversing gear from a salvaged Volkswagen Kombi van. It helped create a unique vacuum head on a conventional windrow harvester.
It picks up everything, even the seed that's on the ground it picks up. It uses the air over and over again. It don't pump any air into the header, but it vacuums up the ground. It's quite a marvelous invention, if I do say so.
It's the same thriftiness and eye for the value in other people's throwaways that helped Roy Eykamp design and build his own cleaning works. The shed was salvaged from the Bondi tram service. The auger and conveyors were built from scratch. Everything was second-hand. The original design is still powering today, but its solid construction and design are only part of the story. Roy Eykamp says the secret to building machinery that lasts is love.
Machinery is alive. Now, of course, you're not going to believe that. If you treat it real good, it never breaks down. If you like machinery, it'll like you. And you can get away with a lot of things. That's my belief, I don't care how many people laugh about it. I love machinery. And you can see I can make it work. You watched it work, haven't you? I can make it do what I want to do.
Roy Eykamp was a keen aviator most of his adult life and learned to fly his own helicopter in his 70s. These days he's content to let his grandson Roy fly him around the family farm. It's still the same 220 hectares. Despite earning tens of millions of dollars, he's never wanted to expand.
I didn't want to get big. If I couldn't make a good living on 600 acres, I ain't going to farm. I don't want to be married to my farm. I don't want to have to be working all the time. Sure, I could buy all the land around here if I wanted to and farm it all. Then I'm never free again. I want to be able to take holidays and go back and visit my parents, and I want to be free. I am not going to tie myself to my farm, so I never got any bigger than 600 acres.
This is a great thing for young people to see. So often you think that you must have large tracts of land and that you have to inherit land. And Roy actually came along and bought that parcel of land and then determined that that was what he had to make a go of. And he certainly has looked at different ways of intensively using that land to make the money. So we had a look at salt bush, I think, and also now the kikuyu. And I think it's a great example for young people about what you can do if you have determination.
He may be recognised now as a modern-day pioneer, but Roy Eykamp still has a keen eye on the future of agriculture. He has firm views on developments such as genetic modification.
I think they're jumping the gun a bit without testing it for more years instead of getting so greedy right away. This big company that's doing this wants to own the rights to all seeds. They don't want farmers to keep any seeds. They want to own the rights to everything. I think that's wrong. That's my opinion.
And he thinks coal seam gas extraction beneath sustainable agricultural land, such as the Liverpool Plains, is a recipe for disaster.
But fracking, that is going to destroy our aquifer. There's bound to be a mistake. They can't say they're never going to make a mistake. And once they get some of that poison gas going into the aquifer, the water is going to be destroyed. Quite a fog this morning. Did you see it? Couldn't see hardly anything for a while.
Remarkable that his achievements may be, Roy Eykamp says he could never have done any of it without his loyal wife Lois. Together they've shared the ups and downs of 70 years of marriage, most of it in Australia.
Yeah, you never objected to coming to Australia, did you?
No.
You didn't like the idea too much at first, but...
Well, I thought it couldn't be that bad if you were so enthusiastic with it, yes. And you talked about the people and how kind they were and thoughtful and spoke English, and he could relate to them. They lived on farms too. And yeah, it wasn't so scary because the place was already here and ready and going. Australia was a rising country. The people were ambitious and they took care of each other. They helped.
It's something almost like the United States people.
Well, exactly. Yeah, same background.
They just talked a different language.
Yeah.
We had to learn an Australian language.
It makes her laugh now, remembering her first party invitation in Australia when she was asked to bring a plate.
I didn't know what I was supposed to do with that plate, I didn't know what it meant. Put something on it, but I found out quick. That was the last time. I never made that mistake again.
They may have come from America and generations after the original pioneers, but the Eykamp family has made a contribution to the nation's prosperity. 3 generations have now farmed at Quirindi and are proud to call Australia home.
I think we've built up a tremendous enterprise here. And the weather and the climate and the soil and what we can grow and the civilization, the civil society that we live in, oh, this is great. This is great. Wouldn't live in America ever. No.